Hello, I'm Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels, and this evening we're going to work on this Ocean City 922. I picked this up at a flea market in Durham, North Carolina this week, last weekend, and it was on a broken fishing rod. I asked the guy how much he wanted for the rod and reel. He said, well, $10 for the reel, and the rod's broken, so you can have it for free. So I really didn't want the rod, but we couldn't get the reel off of the rod, so I ended up taking them both and carrying them around the flea market. At the end of the day, I managed to get the reel home and got the reel off of the rod, and here it is. So we're going to go through it. When I first got it, it wouldn't hardly turn at all. It now turns somewhat free. It got some issues. I sprayed it down with WD-40 and put it in a plastic bag and let it soak for a few days. And I brought it back here to San Antonio, Texas, and I'm ready to start taking this thing apart and getting it cleaned up and see if we can get it restored and back out fishing. All right, first off, I wanted to point something out to you. I have moved on to, this is going to be my work area. It's going, I have been laying down paper towels in the bottom of this, and I've had difficulty with parts sliding around and the paper towel bunching up as I was working on it. So what I'm going to do, I've got this, it's a cookie sheet is what it is, and I'm going to be using that to put my parts in. I'm going to do all my scrubbing, all my assembly and everything in here. And the reason I like it this way is because if I drop something, it hits against the side and it just falls right within this pan. So that's why I like using this pan. I thought I'd cover that just a little bit before I got started, and I hadn't talked about it before. So today I figured I would. All right, we're going to start off by taking the handle off. This handle on this Ocean City, and yeah, it's pretty loose, comes apart like that. But once it does, the handle can now be used as a wrench to take off the main nut. This is actually designed for a quarter or a nickel to unscrew it out in the field. Let's see if we can get this to break loose. There we go. We're going to do a complete disassembly of this. Once I get it all taken down and apart, we will, I'll go back and scrub everything, probably in fast forward. There's the handle, and we have a tension washer that sits in between. We'll set that over to the side. And now we're going to unscrew, I hope, this drag star. And I'm going to have to do a little work on the threads of that once we get this off to get it cleaned up. There's probably a burr on there somewhere along the way, and we'll clean that up so that hopefully that star adjuster goes back on there easier. This is actually set up for a screwdriver blade. I don't have that screwdriver. Yeah, it's actually set up for a screwdriver blade to sit across here to be able to hold it while you screw that back on. I think we might do that, get the right size screwdriver and hold that when we go to put it back in the event that it's really tight, and it appears it's going to be. You can also go ahead and take this collar off if it will come off at this point. Now we're going to go ahead and take these screws out. Well, now that's different. All right, I'm going to point this out. Normally in the past, the shorter screws on these the type of reels have always been in the reel seat. In this case, that was done so the threads wouldn't protrude down here and catch on the line. In this case, they're actually longer on the reel seat. I'm going to count on this one being a short one as well. Yep. Okay. In this instance, the two post screws are the short ones, and the two reel seat screws are the two long ones. That's a little different. Okay, we've got those out, and we should at this point be able to pull this cover off the side. we don't want to force anything. So let's move to the opposite side. We'll take the cover screws off on this side. There may be a hidden screw on that side that we don't know about. Short screw. Long screw, and slide the reel seat out at this point. And short screw. So the two, again, just as the other side. Now let's see if this side comes off. Okay, as I've always said, don't use force if you don't have to. So at this point, we're going to pause, take a look, and let's try taking out this cap for the reel. I wouldn't think this would hold anything in, but we're going to take a look. Okay, don't lose that tension washer right there. I don't see any reason that tension should do anything there. All that did is allowed us to move it back and forth easier. Let's see if I can. Wow, it's almost as though somebody glued this on. So one thing we can do is take the worm gear out. Well, I'm starting to get puzzled now, folks. I should not have to take out the bridge screws in order to take this apart, but I'm going to do it. Go ahead and do it. There's no reason to have to take the bridge screws out, I wouldn't think. But again, this is not a reel I've ever been into before. Normally, this screw right here is going to hold the anti-reverse dog. Wow, it's as though they screwed this thing or glued this thing together. Okay, I do not believe that we had to take those bridge screws out. I just apparently had to just pry it apart. Okay. All right. Here comes my screws falling out. There's 2 of the 4, 3 of the 4. All right. There's 2 long and 2 short. And it appears that the 2 short ones can go back in. But I don't need those out. They go in right here. And they hold this post in for the jack plate and the spring. So we're going to leave those in. So remember that these 2 up here do not need to come out. Okay, they're going into these posts right here. And that's what holds this jack plate. Okay, I rotate that around. That's easing up on that. All right, at this point now, our bridge assembly is ready to come out. Now notice that it would not come out if this jack plate were in the down position, like so. All right, with it coming across our bridge assembly, this is not going to come out. All right, and these nut plates here are held in by the long screws. All right, see, yeah, they go down like that. Okay, now once we move this lever this direction, it's going to open the jack plate, slide it over, and that will allow us to lift the bridge assembly out. Now be careful, because if you look, see this spring on the bridge assembly? Let's zoom in on that for a second, and I got to remember to zoom back out. All right, see the spring? All right, this spring is what operates our anti-reverse dog. All right, and if you see it clicking as you rotate, all right, we do not want to lose that spring off of there. So now I'm going to zoom back out. There we go. And we're going to remove, I hope. Nope. Okay, the jack assembly, the main gear is sitting underneath the pinion gear. The pinion gear is held in by the jack plate the rest of the way. The only way the jack plate's going to come out is if we loosen this screw right here. And now with that loosened, yeah, see that there? That drops, see that hook? Let's zoom back in again. All right, see that hook? That hook slides right across on the jack plate, right there like that. Okay, so when you loosen the screw, you should be able to slide that out. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down just a little bit, just to hold that in position over there so it doesn't fall off. All right, now that you see how that goes, we're going to take and lift this jack assembly up out of here. Okay, the jack assembly is going to pop up off of that post, like so, and then slide out. Like so. All right, and if you look, these two corners of this slid underneath the edges of that. We're going to show you when we put it back in, but that's the way that goes. And then your yoke assembly comes out. It's got a carrier assembly, and then you've got your pinion gear. Once that's done, now your bridge assembly comes out with your gear. And if you'll notice, we still have our anti-reverse dog attached. All right. And watch these two nut plates here. They just slide in and out. And we're going to take them out so we don't lose them. I'll set them over here to the side. Those are the ones that the long screws go into. All right, at this point, we're ready to slide this gear assembly off. And this is where all your drag washers are. And then we have one hard washer on here. And let's see how free this is. Okay, that actually fits pretty good. I really don't want to take that spring off there if I can help it. If I have to, I can, but I'd rather not. All this is in pretty good shape. You know what? I'm going to take it off just to be on the safe side. All right, what we're going to do is I'm going to hold this with my thumb to keep it from flying off. And I'm going to take and hook this spring with a safety pin and very gently try to work it up and off of that post. Like that. Okay, with it off of that, I should then also be able to, you know what, I'm going to leave it on there, on that end, if I can. And we're going to slide this hard washer up and off, being gentle with it. We don't want to break it. There we go. Got that off. Now we should be able, I hope, to lift this anti-reverse dog up and out of this hole without popping the spring off. There we go. Got that up and off. All right, now we've got this out and apart to where we should be able to clean it up very well. should be a pin right there. And we're going to try to push that pin out if we can, gently. There we go. Got it started. There we go, pull it out. Set the pin over to the side. Now with that pin out, we should be able to slide this collar off. All right, that's got the sleeve off and it's got all these parts off, and that's got all of them freed up to be cleaned properly. Now we're down to cleaning this and taking our gear trim assembly apart. This is the side with the hard gear rides on. All right, hard washer. Now let's take the other side apart and see what we've got. All right, I've done it this way, keeping them all together so that we can come back and lay them out exactly as they come off. So first one down is a fabric washer. And this is what I was afraid of. These washers have all stuck together. There we go. So first is the fabric washer. Next is this keyed washer. And I say it's keyed because the inside is an oblong. Next comes another fabric washer. Next comes what they call the eared washer. See the two little ears on it? Followed up by another fabric washer, followed up by another keyed washer. Now these are very corroded and they're not going to function very well until we get all that mess scraped off and cleaned off of them. Okay, so we're going to clean all those parts up. And the last bit, let's see how our, all right, that's in pretty good shape. No, it's not. That is a really strong spring in there, and I really do hate to take it off, but I think I'm gonna have to. And the reason being is I feel grit inside there when you move the lever back and forth. But this particular one doesn't fit like the pins do. This one just folds in behind here and hooks. So it's not gonna be so bad to do. Just grab it with a pair of pliers, lift it over and out, and bring it up and over the top. And now you should be able to just lift it up and out of there, and we'll put it back in there the same exact way. With that done, yeah, you can feel the grit in there. So we're gonna take this out, this screw. Normally, if you had a fairly well serviced reel, I don't believe you would need to take this off, but we don't have. So we're gonna take this off, take that screw out, take our lever off, and let that fall out. And we're going to clean up inside there and get all the grit and sand out of there. All right. So we've got those parts to clean. We forgot to take these two springs off inside the plate here. You definitely want to take those off. You don't want to leave them on there because they can get lost. If for some reason you take these two screws out right here that hold these, what you've got to watch for is that there's a cutout on these posts right here that this jack plate slides into. So if you've got them loose, you're going to have to come back and make sure that your jack plate will slide in and out of there like that. Okay. So when you tighten them down, make sure that that'll go before you ever go to putting all this back together. All right, that's almost everything done. We've got to come back over here to this side, pull our spool out, take a look at it. We're going to be cleaning this, scrubbing all this up, getting all the rust and corrosion off of there. And when you look down inside here, all right, we have a set of gears. Oh, those do not want to turn. Okay, we may have found what was causing a lot of the binding. Okay, we're gonna have to take this gear off. And in order to do that, I believe we're gonna have to pop this side case off. I've got all the screws out of the side case, so there's nothing left there to hold it except just pressure on the side case. There we go. That pops out. Okay, and the only thing holding this gear in is this clip right here. So we're gonna take that clip off, and interesting, let's take a look. Okay, this gear in the side over here, well, that's a big heavy gear. That's driving your worm. Boy, that's a big solid heavy gear. It's really gritty. We've got a lot of cleanup to do on that. But notice that it has a flat side and an inset side, and the inset side goes this direction here, like that. Okay, and what I wanted to look for on that 920 that I did, there was a ring over here where a snap ring was supposed to go. There was a groove. This one doesn't have it. So I wanted to see if there was a groove like that on this worm gear. This is one of the dirtiest gears, reels I've come across in a while. Okay, I've got that part, and now we've got to snap this E-clip off down here. We're going to do that right here. There it is right there. And if possible, we're supposed to try to lift this out of here, but I'm not sure how that's going to work with this in place. There we go. This unscrews out of it now that the clip is off. Okay, with that pulled out, now this gear can come out. And we can scrub every part of this. Now, it's not necessary, I don't believe, for me to go through and show you how every piece of this is going to get scrubbed up and cleaned up. I'm going to come back when I've got it all scrubbed and clean. I'm not even going to show you fast forward on this because this is going to be very time consuming. So I'm going to scrub all these parts up. My guess is it's going to take an hour and a half, 2 hours to get them all clean. Once that's done, I'm going to come back to you and we'll start putting it all back together. All right, as predicted, that took quite a while to get all these parts scrubbed and cleaned. So we're going to start putting things back together now. And I believe we're going to start with this side cover over here, the one with the clicker. And I do want to tell you, this assembly down in here, let me show you. This assembly down in here, that comes out. If you take this screw out right here, this cap, this piece will fall out. Mine fell out while I was cleaning it. I got it put back in now, and it's just got a keyway. You just set it down in the keyway and screw the end cap back on, and that will hold that bushing in place. All right, so that's we're going to go ahead and start trying to put this side plate back together again. We're going to start off with this assembly right here. See this crossbar right here? All right, that crossbar is going to fit into this hole. See how it fits into that? And it goes in there, and that crossbar is going to sit down in that slot right there. And I'll take a little bit of reel grease, put it where the gear is going to ride, add a little bit onto the gear itself, slip it back down. Now this is a phenolic gear. I found the same thing in the Ocean City 920. I found that same exact intermediate gear is phenolic in it as well. Add a little bit of grease there. Slide it back up inside Get that crossbar to drop into place. And now, put your E-clip, C-clip, whatever you want to call it. I call it an E-clip normally. Back in, like that. Now the tension is adjusted on that by this knob right here, which I found rather interesting. Yeah, you can tighten it up to where that gets to be a very tight gear, or you can loosen it up to where it's a very loose gear. So that has a lot to do with how easy this rides. Now, we're going to put a little grease on this other post. And we're going to, I don't know about phenolic gears, whether or not they require grease, but we're going to put grease on this gear, which meshes with the phenolic gear, which in turn is going to go ahead and lubricate the phenolic gear. Put a little down in the hole, and let's slide that gear into place. All right, that gear now meshes with that gear and they turn freely. With that done, we're ready to mesh this side plate back up. Okay, we can set it back into place, like so. And line the post up with the holes. And note, see how the posts stick out? That's how we're able to use the shorter screws on the post, because they stick up inside the side plate. Like so. All right, with that in place, let's go ahead and put our base plate back on one side. All right, it's important to keep your stuff aligned properly. These are not the screws that go in there. Those are your two screws that are going to go in this base plate, side plate over here. These are the screws for your base plate. And the natural inclination when those screws don't want to fit is to start tightening them down tighter and tighter and tighter. And don't do that, because that'll strip things out. You'll end up with cross-threaded screws. There we go. Those fit nicely into the holes they were designed to go into. And we'll go ahead and put our bolt screws in on this side. All right, the two screws I was trying to put in this base plate over here are the bridge screws. They look almost identical to the side plate screws. All right, don't get them confused, because they're not the same. All right, we've got all that side back together. We're going to go back now, and we're going to put a few drops of oil into the bushing on this side. Like that. I'm going to take our spool. This gear is going to mesh with that gear. We're going to add some grease to that. And this is our clicker. And our clicker on this one is pretty tight. It doesn't want to click as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to adjust that just slightly. I'm going to grab hold of the spring very gently and lift it out a little bit on each side. And then I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the clicker pawl. See, yeah. All right, that's what it needed. Now it clicks easily in and out. I'm going to click it out. I'm going to drop the spool in. There we go. Got the spool on that side. And that brings us around to the other side. Now you remember I said that bushing falls out. Well, it did fall out on this side as well. This is the bushing right here. All right. Now first off, the plate. There's a plate, brass plate that goes in the bottom. There you go. And make sure that it lays flat in there. If it doesn't lay flat, your spool is not going to go in and fit properly. And you may have to fiddle with it a little bit to get it, there you go, to get it to lay flat in there. Once you do, if you want to, you can put a little dab of grease down in there to help hold it in place so it doesn't fall back out. And now you've got another bushing. Here it is. Okay, that's what your spool is going to ride on. And you've got to get that down in there. Like so. If you don't have it in there, it can fall out. And without it, your spool is not going to have anything to ride on. And let's set this over to the side. And let's get back to our eccentric now. This is our eccentric. We're going to want to put it back in. This is the eccentric that drives the jack plate. We're going to put a little oil on the barrel of the eccentric and a little bit down in this groove that the spring is going to ride on, and that'll just help keep it from grinding away at the eccentric. We're going to put a little inside the hole that the eccentric is going to fit through and drop the eccentric in, like so. With the eccentric in place, we can now take the arm for the eccentric, slip it on. It's got a keyway, and you got to find the keyway. Having a little trouble seeing it properly. There we go. Did I find it? Nope. Sometimes it's easier to turn it upside down and get it in line and then flip it back like so. Now, it's possible to get this 180 degrees out. Let's see if we've done that. Okay. We have it 180 degrees out from where it belongs. Okay, so let's pop it back off and rotate it on around like so, and put it back on. Now, see the lever on this? It's supposed to be sitting over top like this so that it catches. All right. There's our big screw. It goes in the eccentric to hold it in place. Okay. Now that moves freely without grit. There's no grinding. Okay. It should have that in the right configuration. If it is, then we should be able to take this post now, or this spring, set it inside like this, and then be able to grab hold of it there we go. Took a little bit to get it down there. All right. Now, hopefully, I've got that in the right place for the jack plate to do what it's supposed to do. Let's check it. Jack plate's supposed to slide in between these posts, fit onto there like so, and then move in and out. There we go. Jack plate's doing what it's supposed to do, so we have the eccentric installed correctly. So, if you're looking at your eccentric, your post should be over to the right, more to the, if you've got it straight up and down like this, it should be at like the 1 or 2 o'clock position. All right. That's got that in position. Okay. Let's go ahead now and let's install our springs. This one goes here. This one goes here. There's no difference between them. You can put one on either side. All right. Now, we're going to install your pinion gear, which this is different from any pinion gear I've encountered before. We're going to take this pinion gear, and it's been inspected, and slide it into this carrier assembly. Like so. Okay, it's only going to go up to about there, and then it stops. It locks in place. Okay. Now, this carrier assembly is going to sit inside this yoke assembly. All right. So, this is our carrier assembly for our main gear, and we have to take and install. Your anti-reverse assembly is going to drop through this hole, like so. And this hole here is going to fit over this post. All right. There, like that. Then you come over to this side, and this spring assembly is going to hook right on this post. Let's zoom in a little bit. And I've got to remember to come back. Take that off of zoom. All right. We're going to take a safety pin. We're going to hook on to that spring. And we're going to bring it around and hook it over that post. Like that. Okay, now your anti-reverse dog can pivot right there. We're gonna put a little grease on there. Clean off the excess. Doesn't need a whole lot of grease there. Just enough to keep the post pivoting. With that done, we can slide this post over here. Or this sleeve. This is our carrier sleeve. Slides over, and let's zoom back out again like we said we would. All right, and you've got to get your anti-reverse dog over so that this will go all the way down like that. There's your anti-reverse. Okay, as this rotates, the anti-reverse dog chatters back and forth and catches on each of those. Now, if you wish to quiet down your anti-reverse, you can add grease right here. And that will make it operate more quietly, because that grease acts as a cushion so that you're not going click, 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 click. Instead, it's more of a tick, 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 tick. Very gentle, like that. All right. Now we have to put that pin back in. This little pin right here. Remember we pushed it out earlier? Well, it's time for it to go back in. Slip it in the hole. And tighten it down. Make sure that it goes all the way down, because if it doesn't, see, it's catching just slightly. If it doesn't go all the way down, it's going to catch on our gear when we try to put it in the hole. There. Now, our sleeve is turning freely. And this is the point, if we wish, that we can come back, put a little grease on here just to hold these in place, and slip these nut plates back in, like so. One on each side. At this point, we're ready to slip the hard gear, the hard washer back down. Be careful with this now, and when you push it down from the threaded sides. If you look, there's a flat on each side of this. If you try to push it from the flats and try to push that down, what's going to happen, it's going to catch on the threads and it's going to snap it. So don't push it from the flats, push it from the thread sides. And gently ease it down all the way to the bottom. Once it's there, you can add a little grease. Just a little bit. And that brings us to our main gear. Now this gear had some corrosion here. I cleaned it out as best I could. Filed it down and cleaned it. It's smooth now. There's no roughness there, so that shouldn't create any problems. All right, we're going to slide that gear on now. And at this point, we're going to change greases. We're going to start using drag washer grease. If you don't have drag washer grease, you can use regular reel grease. It's just that the drag washer grease has additives that will help it operate better. Okay, slip that one down in there. Next comes your keyed washer. See your key, it's an oblong, and that the flats line up on the flats on there. Slide that down in there. Now we've got our next washer. Rub in some drag washer grease. Make sure it goes down inside there. I prefer to use my little screwdriver, which I gotta find. There it is. Work that down, make sure it's even in there. Next comes your eared washer. It's got the little tabs on each end. Those are gonna fit into these little slots right here. Let's zoom in. Those are going to fit into these little slots right here, one on each side. That's your eared washer. Make sure that it goes down inside the gear, because without it inside that gear's not going to lock properly. You won't have a drag. And we're going to put our last washer on. Lubricate it good. And I don't know if these are leather or what they're felt or whatever they're made of, but they're still in good shape. All right, next comes the last keyed washer. Slip it into place. All of this is now ready to install back into here. So we can go ahead, flip this over, slide it in like that. Make sure that these two go down, your two nut plates. Put your two screws, the ones that do not belong in this reel seat. Okay, that one went in nicely. The one on the other side did not. It seems to be catching, so let's see what we can do. That's why it's going in the wrong hole. Put it in the right hole, and it should screw down nicely. Back to our springs. One of them fell off, put it back on. All right, next thing what I want to do is install the yoke. And it's going to go in this beveled area here goes to the top, and this keyway area right here, see these four ways here? Well, those are going to go to the top like that, and your pinion gear is going to fit into it like that. Now it's not going to want to stay in there very well unless you grease it good. So let's go ahead and add a little grease to the pinion gear. So when we slide it in to the carrier, well, let's try to put it all back together. Like so. Put your yoke on. Make sure your bevel's up. Set it down inside. There we go. Get it to go down on each side like so. Now we're ready to reinstall the jack plate. Make sure this doesn't get caught up over here. Put your jack plate down. All right. Move your lever back over to the side. Tighten it down. All right, now when you flip your lever, it's going to come over. All right, now, if you find yourself trying to flip this lever over, like so, and it's only going to go about halfway, and you see it kind of bind up over here, that's going to be because you put this carrier assembly upside down. See these 4 notches? You've got to see those 4 notches at the top, not at the bottom. They've got to be up here on the top. That allows that to work properly. All right? Don't ask me how I know. I just know. Okay, the next thing we're going to want to do is install our worm gear. Now I took the worm gear apart offline. You didn't see me take it out. Basically, all it is, let's see, I got it backwards. All you've got is once it slides out, you have a screw right here. It's going to hold in this guy right here. All right, that drops in. That is your pawl. Drop the pawl in, and you'll know it's in when you can turn it and it moves the carrier up and down. Okay, once you've got that in, take your screw, put that back in, and that's going to hold your pawl in. Worm gears should be oiled, not greased. Although a lot of people prefer to grease them, I don't. All right, now this is going to go in only one way. See the keyway over here? That's going to go into that gear that we installed back into this side case. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to rotate this down until our carrier is way over on this side. Then we're going to slide it up into here, like so. Once it's in, then put it in the other side and rotate it around until you feel that drop into the hole. Okay, now that it's in the hole, that's going to be fine. We're going to come back and add oil to this worm gear later. But we wanted the worm gear installed. We are at the point now where we can put this side cover on. Let's add some oil into that bushing and bearing. And we'll add a little bit of grease to the end of our spool. And at this point, we should be able to slip this back on like so. The worm gear. No. All right, well, tell you what, let's do. Let's go ahead and drop our sleeve back in. And by the way, I did clean up the threads here. This top thread right here was crushed from the handles being tightened down over the years. It had crushed that top thread. Now that I've straightened that up, this should go on nicely. Okay, we're gonna need to hold that just a little bit. Doesn't take much. Now we're rotating. I got it down. Now it's going down. Remember this, how much force I had to use to actually get that off. Okay, now with that lined up, we can go back. Remember, short screws do not go in the reel base. The long screws do. Let's run those in. Oh, that's why. Okay, we still gotta get our spool back in, our worm gear. I had it in and I let it fall back out. Remember, the carrier has to fit in this bar up here. If you have to lift it out to get it to go in, then do so. Okay, like so. All right, now you should be able to put this screw back in. It's our end cap for the worm gear. Install the handle. Okay, still fits a little tighter than I like. I think I'm gonna go back, pull the side cover off, and clean the grease off of those two gears that I greased and oil them instead. Let's go ahead and oil our worm gear. For my complainer out there that's always complaining because I'm guessing at what we're doing on these reels, you're right, buddy. I am guessing. Like I said, I've never dealt with this reel before. This is a brand new first time for me. So we're experimenting together as we go. And hopefully when we get done, we've got a very nice operational 1950s model reel that can go out and go fishing again. I really thought greasing those gears would be the best thing for them, but they sure were slow and sluggish and hard to turn. All right. Now I got something out of alignment. There it goes. There it goes. It dropped in. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right, folks. There we go. That's the answer. Do not, I repeat, do not grease those two intermediate gears on the end. It will make this thing so sluggish you can't hardly use it. Let's tighten this down just a little bit on the intermediate gear. Okay, see, that's a very adjustable tension on that intermediate gear. There we go. Very good drag. Good. All right, there you have it. Let me wipe this thing off. I'm not going to turn one out unless I'm pretty sure that it's right. And this one was not right when I got done with it. It was extremely sluggish and didn't want to operate properly. Now it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Absolutely. There you have it, the Ocean City 922. I think I actually might have a buyer out there for this one. Guy called me while I was gone and told me he wanted to trade in another reel, see if he could get one that was actually a level wind. And this may be his reel, and I don't know that I'm gonna actually sell it to him. I'll probably just trade him for another reel and move on. But I really do like this reel. I liked it when I saw it at the flea market. I like what we've done with it. I've cleaned up nice. The only problem that it has cosmetically is the 3-post, well, the 2-post and the shield here for the worm gear. And it says top sail on that shield. So nice reel. If you like what you saw here today, hit the like button. If you'd like to subscribe, please do. As I said, I've got a whole list in my other video that I posted tonight of the upcoming video reels that we're going to be doing. And if there's any of those specific that you'd like to see, let me know. And if you got any questions on this reel or any other reel, please comment below, and I'll get right back to you. For now, that's Rick Stivers with YoungMartin'sReels signing out.